Hello everybody, and I hope that you all had a really good rest over the half-term break. I know we all needed it, pupils and staff, but it was lovely to have 2 weeks, and I hope you managed to enjoy some downtime, albeit with the prospects of an escalating virus ahead of us in the build-up to Christmas, which I know is worrying for many of us, and an additional challenge for us as a school. This bulletin will go through the scope of those challenges and some of the necessary changes that we're making. So there are some really important messages contained within what I'm about to say. I essentially have 2 main challenges now. The first of which is a challenge that we've actually had for the last however many months since this pandemic started, which is to try and balance the continuation of a provision of really excellent, ambitious education which you and your children all enjoy, whilst at the same time keeping everybody safe, staff and pupils, and so that they feel comfortable being here in the school. So that's the first challenge, that ongoing balance that's necessary. The second challenge is that the guidance is changing very, very rapidly in the face of this lockdown. We've had significant communication, often changing by the day, if not by the hour, over what we can and what we can't do here on the school sites. And we're still trying to digest all of that and respond to it as appropriate. So I please ask for your patience as we ebb and flow with the changing guidance. But please also be reassured that what I'm trying to do throughout this is both keep us safe and also maintain the quality of the education. So here are a few of the changes that we're having to enact and to the adjustments we're having to make. The first thing to say is, because the virus is escalating, of course we're having to review all of our risk assessments across the whole organisation to check that they are as tight as they possibly can be. It's a good time to do that anyway after a half-term break, just to reassess everything and check that the risk assessments are exactly as we would want them to be. But there are a few things that have come out of this that we think are important to share with you. Firstly, I spoke with all the pupils on Monday to alert them to the fact that we all believe that it is best for them to be in school. We absolutely believe that wholeheartedly. It is best for them to be in school. However, there are staff, there are teachers here who are vulnerable, who are anxious, who are worried about this pandemic and the possible impacts on them. And it's very important that from a pupil perspective that they understand that anxiety, because they will want their teachers to remain here in the school and to continue interacting with them and teaching them. So it is absolutely imperative on the pupils that they follow what we're telling them to do, which is to keep the distance of 2 metres, to remain in their bubbles, and to keep sanitising their hands and wearing masks when they can't keep distance and when they're in communal areas. That's in the senior school, obviously, the mask wearing in communal areas. But it's really, there's a responsibility on those pupils to look after their teachers and to reassure their teachers. And I'd be very appreciative if you could take the opportunity this weekend to talk with your children about that and the responsibility that they have, because we've got an incredibly good or an excellent staff body who are really on the side and really recognise that it's best for the pupils to be in the school. But equally, there's some real anxiety there as well, quite understandably. And the more that the pupils can do to play their part, the better. As well as having some vulnerable staff, of course, we're also conscious that we have some vulnerable pupils. And I would, again, ask you to think, if your child is categorised as extremely vulnerable or is just vulnerable to this pandemic, please let us know. Speak to your head of section, speak to the college nurse, speak to the deputy head pastoral or the head of junior school. It doesn't really matter who you speak with, but do speak with us, because if we need to be mindful of that, obviously we'll have our own records, but it's very helpful to have it flagged to us. If there's particular children who we think are particularly vulnerable, then we should be responding proactively in the face of this pandemic. So please do let us know about that. The starts and the ends of the school day have got rather ragged, and we need them to get better again, please. So there are lots of things in there. I need the pupils to be wearing masks, I need the pupils to be socially distancing, and I need them to be turning up to school at their allotted time. There's been a real drift in that, with children turning up far earlier, and that presents a real risk in terms of cross-bubble contamination for us. It also presents quite a PR risk. We're on the South Circular, hundreds of people are driving past, and if they see great big congregations of children, it doesn't make us look great, and indeed it's not great. So please can we make sure that the children arrive at the time slot that has been given, that was given at the beginning of the year. We were very good at this at the beginning and it slipped, which I do understand, but if we could please resume to that, I'd be grateful. And likewise, parents, I must impress upon you, please, you must wear a mask on the school drive, and you must socially distance on the school site. Again, all of those risks that I've just outlined are the same for parents too. You need to be wearing masks, you need to be socially distancing, you need to stick to those times in order for us to respond properly and effectively to this escalating risk. If you need to speak with a member of staff, I know that often in the junior school happens at drop-off times. Of course we understand that, but please, in this context, make an appointment by email to have that conversation by Teams or by phone. Don't try and do it here on the school site. We can't entertain those in-person conversations. So masks and social distancing on the drive, please. And if there is congestion, go to find a space, find a clear space so that you're not all bunched up together. And everything that you can do to help us with that would be really, really gratefully received. Further adjustments, so just to reassure you really, we've redeployed a number of house staff now for additional cleaning around the school site. We already had redeployed a lot of staff, we're now redeploying even more to ensure that the cleaning is as regular as it can be, particularly on those regular touch points. Sixth form, we are going to continue to allow them to leave the site at lunchtime and break time for the time being, but we may have to row back on that, either because the guidance might change, or if they let us down out in the public and they need to socially distance. We have spoken to them about this. They can't all mob in Sainsbury's. It's just not the message that we want to give, and they shouldn't be behaving in that way in the face of the pandemic. So the onus is on them really, the sixth formers. If they want that privilege of going off-site, they need to treat it seriously. And again, please do speak to your children if they're in the sixth form about that. But for the moment, we will allow them to continue going off-site until such time as we feel we have no choice but to withdraw that privilege. In terms of the co-curricular programme, we're very lucky at St Dunstan's, because the vast majority of our co-curricular activity happens, as you know, in the school day, in the Forder programme, and subsequently it's an intrinsic part of our educational offer, and we can continue it. There are certain activities where we are going to have to scale it back, the higher risk activities, the cross-bubble activities, and you will be informed about that by the heads of the co-curricular teams. But wherever possible, our intention is to maintain that breadth and quality of the co-curricular programme wherever we can. There is it is very unclear still about after-school activities, and we are in the process of doing an ongoing review about what we can and what we can't do after school. That guidance is still unclear. So for the time being, we continue with our co-curricular programme unless you hear otherwise on that basis. However, weekend activity we can't in all good conscience continue with. I have spoken with other independent school heads in the local area, and we are all of the same mind, which is that for day schools we can't be encouraging additional journeys in and out of school in that way. So there will not be any weekend activity. I know that is a great shame, but we just can't do it. Pause on weekend activity. There will be some things going on here relating to admissions, which we have no choice but to run. But other than that, for our own students, there is not going to be any weekend activity, certainly for the duration of this lockdown, and certainly until things change. But all other elements of the co-curricular programme, at the moment, we intend to keep going. The same applies to after-school care in the junior school. This will continue until we're told otherwise. It will carry on, but it is reserved for essential use, in particular for key worker parents. So if you've got any concerns about after-school care, could you just liaise directly with the junior school office about that? But at the moment, our intention is to continue after-school care until we're told otherwise. But just liaise, please, with the junior school office if you have any questions about that provision. In terms of teaching and learning, we carry on. We carry on with this in the senior school with the 17-strong subject curriculum. We carry on using our the facilities that we have that are designed to really support subject-specific enrichment. So, science lessons will remain in labs, music lessons will remain in music classrooms. We are going to continue. However, once again, we are looking at the risk assessments and checking, is there anything else that we need to do to make it even safer? And there are meetings that are ongoing and have been ongoing this week with higher risk curriculum areas, looking particularly here at drama, the likes of drama, music, sport, just to check if there are further adjustments that we should be making in light of those revisions to the risk assessments. But the message I really want to give to you is we see no reason why we should be stopping or adjusting radically the quality of the curriculum delivery that we're giving you. There have been a few changes, particularly in the senior school, over marked work. So obviously we want to continue to give your children feedback. There is a higher risk using exercise books and touching exercise books, and well, obviously that there is an increased risk of transmission there. We have Firefly and we actively use that in the senior school. All homework should be being set on Firefly anyway in the senior school, and we're saying to all teachers that wherever possible, all feedback and marking should be done through Firefly, again just to avoid that transmission risk. So if you're looking through your children's exercise books and you see a real paucity of marking, say, do enter dialogue with that teacher or with your child, because it should be being evidenced on Firefly through that online forum. So it's an important shift in how we're doing things with the teaching and learning there. More updates. Sorry, this is such a long one. I just wanted to make you aware that Enterprise, so that's the commercial arm of what we do here, all of the operations are being shut down throughout the course of this lockdown, as you would expect, and those employees have largely all been furloughed, except where they are required to support the work of the college. So it's just to let you know, those of you who use the swim school and other facilities like that, I'm afraid that's all had to be shut, which is obviously a great shame. And likewise with our support staff, just again, it's important that you're aware of these things as a community, that we are working with them to discuss working from home arrangements. It's not possible to run a school and have all of our support staff working from home. It just isn't possible to run things that way. But wherever we can, we are trying to strike that balance between allowing support staff to be at home to reduce the transmission risk, but at the same time support the education. So that's our take on that. There will be a skeleton support staff always on site, but also supporting working from home. We are getting much tighter in school about entering offices and having in-person meetings. Even when we're having senior team meetings here now, we're trying to do it wherever possible through Teams within the building to avoid face-to-face contact. So just to give you some reassurance on that, again, to avoid transmission. And unless it is absolutely imperative, we would not be having in-face meetings here with you in school during the course of this lockdown. It can all be done through Teams or over the telephone, which is much the same as we have been doing things anyway, but just to say that is even tighter now. And the last point that I have is that, and it's a point I've made before, so forgive me, but all of the virtual teaching and learning, so the hybrid teaching where we've either got teachers at home teaching in or teachers at school teaching back home to the children, that is reserved for COVID-related incidents. Okay, so it is not reserved for any other purpose. If your child is self-isolating, then of course they must engage with that remote learning program, but otherwise not. Why? Because it's not as effective a program of teaching and learning as the children being in school. So our emphasis is on having the children in school, not on this hybrid approach, and it's also much more challenging for the teachers too. So it's reserved for COVID-related isolation, not any other purposes. They are the main adjustments. It's just also worth noticing or notifying you that we haven't had any incidents or confirmed incidents of COVID-19 within the immediate community here this week. I think all of us expect that won't remain the case over the next few weeks, but let's hope that we can do our best to limit the amount of outbreaks that we do have. But that's the situation as of this week. The week just gone has all been about making these adjustments, getting back into routines, tightening up on everything and making sure that we conform to guidance. So there's not an enormous amount to report back to you on, other than the fact it's been lovely to see the children back. But also to say that the changes to the lunch arrangements have been incredibly well received, and I'm very grateful to the bursar who's really responded to your feedback on that. So we now do have 2 options of hot food for the children, which they collect from the servery. which has been no mean feat to get to that point. So I hope your children have come back and said how delighted they are by the change, because it's significant, and also the menu choices reflect what they wanted too. So a lot of work there to get lunch much better for this half term, and thanks for your feedback, and I hope you appreciated the response to it. The only other thing I just wanted to mention this half term is, despite all of these challenges, all of our Oxbridge candidates, those looking for Oxford and Cambridge, have had their pre-university application tests this week, which have happened and happened very well. They've been extremely well prepared for those, and they've worked incredibly hard. So just for the whole community, keep our fingers crossed for them as they go through those really challenging applications to the Oxford and Cambridge colleges, just to let you know about that. Next week there are quite a few things going on. Remembrance Day, of course, is hugely important for us as a college. Don't forget, we lost percentage-wise more children to the Great War than any other school in the country. So it's a hugely moving occasion for us, and we will absolutely continue to mark it on Wednesday, the 11th of November. We will obviously have to adjust what we do, and the majority of children will be in their classrooms having that service live streamed to them. But the activities and the event will be marked in the way that we are accustomed to here at St Dunstan's. I'm also very excited next week to announce the first of our Opening Minds lectures. It's happening virtually. Our Opening Minds lectures this year are going to be open to parents as well, so it's a really exciting opportunity for you. And it's at 6:30 on Tuesday. Sorry, I think I might have said Monday. It's on Tuesday at 6:30, and Ian Glenn, actor and current parent, and Lisa Berger, who's the executive director of the National Theatre, will be in conversation on Teams. I think it's going to be very interesting conversation. 6:30 Tuesday. If you want a link to that event, please email Eliana Daniels, who's the PA to the deputies here in the senior school, on edaniels@stdunstans.org.uk, and you will get a link to that really interesting Opening Minds lecture. So do join us if you can. And the last notice that I have is that on Monday, after half term, it's Year 11 Options Evening, which again is being done virtually. This is a very important event for Year 11, where they learn from the heads of department of the subjects they wish to study in the sixth form, much more about the exciting courses that are available to them here at St Dunstan's. So please make sure, if you are a parent of a Year 11 child, they know what's going on that Monday, and they've signed up to the various events there. So sorry that's been such a long list of points that I had to raise with you, but obviously there's an awful lot going on. And I hope you're reassured by all of the things that I've said, and most pertinently realise that we are trying to do those two things, both keep everybody safe, but at the same time maintain that real quality to our education that we've managed to do throughout this pandemic, and we will continue to do throughout this recent escalation. So that's the end. I hope you've managed to stay with me till the very end of this one, and have a really good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you or speaking with you again at the end of week 2 from St Dunstan's. Thanks ever so much.